Connecticut Democratic Senator Chris Murphy serves on the Foreign Relations and Appropriations Committees and joins me now. So let's start with this massive ransomware attack. We've been so concerned about the vulnerability to governments like Russia, China, North Korea, and Iran. Now our reporting is this may be a Russian criminal enterprise. The big question is, how do you distinguish between a Russian criminal enterprise and the Russian government? I know you're in that Russell Rotunda. It's rather noisy there, but I hope you can hear the question, Senator.
I can. Thanks for having me on, Andrea. Yeah, listen, I mean, the entire Russian government is a criminal enterprise. So exactly. I think it is accurate to state it's difficult to try to unwind these more formal criminal elements from the Russian government and the GRU, their secret service. Listen, we're obviously going to learn a lot about the attack. And now that we know that there was Russian involvement, I'm sure we'll get a classified briefing at some point this week. What I think we have to communicate to the Russians is that, the United States of America has the same capabilities that the Russians and Russian criminal elements do. It's not good for us and it's not good for Russia if we get into a series of escalating cyber attacks on critical infrastructure, both here in the United States and inside Russia. This is not good business. And so, we ultimately have to defend ourselves with better coordination between the public and the private sector here at home. But part of defending America is making our adversaries know that we have offensive capabilities as well. So I think all of those things are going to have to be communicated very shortly as we learn more about the nature of this attack.
And I do know, correct me if I'm wrong, but there was a time, perhaps this is more than a year ago, when we blacked out Moscow in retaliation for something.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we have some pretty significant capabilities. Again, I think it's important for us to make clear what our options are. But we also can do better here at home. You mentioned that the Trump administration had stood down some of our focus on cyber protections. We've got to do a better job of integrating what the private sector knows about these attacks that come from outside of the United States. They've got to share more of that with the government so that we can have coordinated strategies. So we've got a defensive strategy, but we also have to make clear what our offensive capabilities are.
Senator, I know you just got back from the Middle East, and there are just horrible clashes in Jerusalem, in East Jerusalem, continuing today. Mostly Arab East Jerusalem. It's, of course, been a prime area because of the Al-Aqsa Mosque, the third most holiest place in Islam. And over the weekend, the Israeli Defense Force, and we don't know what started this. We know one spark point was Israeli settlers trying to evict Palestinians from their decades-long homes, but firing rubber bullets into the mosque where people were at prayer, children, old people. What can the U.S. do? The U.S. has denounced this, and what can we do to stop it from escalating?
Well, you're right. These scenes are very difficult to watch. There's, I think, news today of a rocket attack in Jerusalem. Hamas is, of course, going to, try to use this moment of unrest to try to build and shore up their political base. Those attacks are absolutely unacceptable. But both sides need to take steps towards de-escalation. I have feelings about these evictions of Palestinians who have been in these neighborhoods for generations. I think the United States should press the Israelis to stop those evictions, but we also need to press Hamas and their allies to stop continuing to ratchet up the violence. So everyone in and around Israel has to take some steps to make sure that we can have a path towards de-escalation. This last weekend has been difficult to watch.
And you're right to point out what's happening from Gaza, from Hamas, but you've got a failure of leadership in both sides, of course, with a complete vacuum of power on the Israeli side, negotiating yet another new government, and on the Palestinian side, that's been endemic. I want to take you to Afghanistan, though, because we have a live report coming up from Richard Engel in Kabul later this hour, but you've said that the president made the right decision. There were no good decisions, really, but to withdraw from Afghanistan. But now, women and girls, these girls were just trying to get educated. Their gains over the last 20 years have been largely because of the Bush administration and the Obama administration, constitutional guarantees for women after 9/11 and after we invaded. And now, what are their lives going to be like if there's a Taliban takeover. We don't know who did this. But we now have as many as 60 teenage girls dead and others grievously wounded.
Yeah, these reports are really hard to stomach. As you know, Andrea, there are a lot of different opinions as to how successful the Taliban will be at taking control of Kabul. Remember, today, the Taliban controls sizable portions of the countries. And so already, up until this point, a lot of the gains that we had made with respect to the rights of women and young girls had been erased, because even as the United States has been on the ground there with thousands of forces, we've been losing the battle. The Afghan army has been unable to hold much of the countryside. And so what I think President Biden is recognizing is that the trajectory in Afghanistan has been heading the wrong way for a long time, and that the American people are not interested in having a permanent U.S. occupation of Afghanistan. Now, that doesn't mean that we are withdrawing from the country economically and diplomatically. We are going to still support the Afghan government and their reform agenda in all sorts of important ways. And there are many who think that the Taliban will actually have a very hard time in advancing into some of these cities today held by the Afghan government. So I think that there is still a lot of work the United States can do in Afghanistan to support the rights of women. We can help be a mediator between the Taliban and the Afghan government so that they can come to some political reconciliation. Yes, is there going to be more violence there in the short run? There will be. But I just know that the United States was really facing the prospect of either withdrawing or accepting that we were going to essentially have to be in Afghanistan for the next 50 years. And I know what decision my constituents would have made had faced with that question.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel. You should know that you can follow today's top stories and breaking news and catch up on your favorite MSNBC shows all in one place. Download the NBC News app today.